Did you come on? I'm not crazy. Fine. I mean, wait. Who knows this?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Anyway, it's the same as this.
Who said that? You said it.
Sankofa. Sankofa. I didn't come. So let's say it together. Sankofa. Sankofa. And then I'm about to hold on to this. Say. Urefi na osan ofa eji. Let's say this together. So Urefi na osan ofa eji. Who understands what that is, right? I think it's a proverb. This is our chief speaker who has to pretend like she doesn't understand. She is right that it is a proverb. What do you think the proverb is saying, our chief speaker? What's that? What do you think it is saying? I'll let you know if you get it right or not. Should I get? Or should I help you? So we're going through everything. Anytime we get started, we're going to go to the very basics, just the sounds of the language, basic greetings. But anytime we get started, I want to introduce some of these things right from the beginning. Right, so we'll get into everything. Right? So this is it. So Refi, if you forget, now Sankofa, and you return and go take it, then Genji, we don't taboo that. Right? So usually they bring this into English as it's not taboo to go back and fetch what you have forgotten. Right? Now the BBC, the ground Ramwa. So this is what's called a gold weight. Titekanono. Because in ancient times it was gold dust that was used in order to make transactions. So they would use something called a scale. It is sankofa. So they would put the gold weight on one side. They will put the gold dust on the other side. So when both are the same, they know it was the amount of gold dust called trejain, which is the one that you use to get a sheep, literally. So depending on the weight, it determines what you can buy with it. So you see that there's wisdom even in the things that were used for function. Krapa. We are adding crap. This is also adding crap. Because I want you to get a little bit of understanding of the thing. No. So it's brass. It's brass. So they would weigh gold dust against this one. Right? So they called it gold weights. It doesn't mean that the weight itself is gold. It means that the gold dust was used. This was to weigh against the gold dust. Sankofa. And this one is krapa.
Do you know what type of bird it is?
What is sankofa?
What type of bird?
So the type of bird is called a sankofa bird.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so the second one, krapa. So let's say it together, krapa. And this translates to a good soul. Alright? Krapa ti. This is a ti. Ti set or kra. Let's say it together. Krapa ti set or kra. Uchlifin. Which is to say, a good soul is like a cat. It despises filth. So, if you see a cat, you will see it's always licking itself. It wants to stay clean. And this is how the human being's soul is seen. You don't want to get involved in things that are filthy to it. It always wants to do what is good, always wants to do what is right. Every day we'll start off with these. Adenchem. 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 What do you think adenchem is? Adenchem. Crocodile, very good. If she knows that, it means she already knows the language. And don't feel any kind of way. We'll break it down to very, very basics. But I want you to understand that in this class, we're going to go into the culture. We're going to go into the philosophy, right? But we'll get started with baby steps. Adenchem. So again, adenchem da insium. Adenchem da insium. Nansu. Ohome. Insium. Ohome. Inframa. So this is to say the crocodile lives in the water, but it doesn't breathe water. It breathes air. I'm catching all your people. Right? Now, you recall that we were discussing the origins of writing in Africa, right? Now, this is another system, but instead of writing a single sound or a single syllable, is writing out an entire proverb. So what you're seeing is another system of writing. Now, and yet, it is not that only. Winso, they are different. This is another means of writing. Who has seen this before? And yet, what? Very good. Does anyone know what is written in this Gente? It's a design. Very good. This is an old one of mine, about 20 years old. Some of you may barely be 20 years old, so the clock may be older than you. We have various types, right? So that one is no longer for wearing, it's for display. But this is another way of writing. So you see the account people have various ways of writing. They could write with an engram. They could write by casting it in metal. They could also write on the cloth. The cloth itself is writing, right? Where so Can anyone give that a shot? I know between that kind. Who wants to try to read that? Should I help? Obi in chat. Obi kwanusi. So this is to say someone doesn't take long before someone's road inside stand. It means it doesn't take long before you cross into someone else's path. So be patient with that person. But you say, if you say so it means that just as you would want someone to be patient with you, if you mistakenly cross into their path, by the same token, you should do the same thing, right? Until we, so if we had this type of knowledge, you would see that our crowd would not be like this. Hey, what you? Hey. I won't say some of the things that they say. So now let's go back to the basics. And at the end of the class, I'll ask you about these things that I've shared with you to start off, right? So we'll start off with a course overview, course objectives, before you start building your vocabulary, sounds of the language. I told you we'll start from the very basic building blocks, right? Some of you may have been exposed to the language, perhaps you may not know completely how to write, right? Which words should go together, which ones should be separate, where should the apostrophe come? All of these things are parts of learning the language. So we go to sounds of the language, we'll go into vowels of the language, consonants of the language, unit summary, culture points, greeting formalities, how do you greet people in the language, other expressions in the house, food, general and specific, days of the week and equivalent day names, also called soul names, the human body, well-being and illness, illnesses, members of the family in terms of kinship terms. They will give a summary from there. We'll go into the grammar of the language, parts of speech, pronouns, everyday verbs, everyday nouns, adjectives, adverbs, numerals, conjunctions. You see we have quite a lot of ground to cover. Tenses, then we'll come to a summary again. Other grammatical items, articles and postpositions. And all of this is going to get you up to the point of being able to have a conversation in P. So everything is geared towards you being able to have conversations. Question forms, negation, telling the time, reading, speaking, and writing skills, translation practice, comprehension practice, composition practice. Those are also going to relate to what will finally come in the final exam. And you will have to do translation, you will have to do composition, unit summary, and then a bibliography. That is giving you what we'll deal with. So for this, you'll get a chance to read this. Has everyone written their name for the textbook? Those who came in late, did anyone come in and not sign? If anyone has already paid for the textbook, please indicate that next to your name. All right? So basically, in the overview, and you'll get this very shortly, we'll go into culture points, customs, reading, writing, translating, all of these things that you will need. We'll deal with first in the Unit 1, sound system of the language. We'll cover material on vowels and consonants and what those are all about. Unit 2, we'll go into types and meals. But for now, just for the sake of time, let's go straight into Unit 1, so that we can get started. Now, there are a few things that you should know about Chi, Asante Chi. One of which is that Asante Chi is the most widely spoken of the various dialects of the Akan language. So picture Akan like an umbrella, and under the umbrella you have various varieties of Akan. So the most widely spoken is Asante Chi. Can anyone tell me any other varieties of the Akan language? Fancy, very good. What else? Chi, good. What else? Fancy, good. That was it. Zema, good. Bono, very good. What else? Sebi, good, good. Now, when it comes to some of the Western languages, some scholars group those in with Akan. Others say it's diverged a bit far, but for our purposes, we can say okay. What about Achim? Good. Akwemu. So usually we name the different varieties of the language on the same thing as the people, right? Kwewu, and so forth and so on. So if you know people who are Akans coming from these different places, you'll find differences in their varieties of Akan. But there are three major literary dialects of Akan. Asante Chi, this is versions of Akan that are spoken and written, and also read, so you can read books in these languages. So you have Asante Chi, Ekwapim Chi, and Fansi, right? So the other two, Ekwapim Chi spoken in parts of the eastern region, Fansi spoken in the central region. So these are what are called the literary dialects of Akan. Akan is a tonal language, and a change in pitch or tone of 2 or 3 similar words can bring about a difference in meaning. And I think we discussed this example before. So, can anyone read this for me? Papa, good. And what's that one? Good, very good. Papa. What's that one? Good. Papa. Fine, very good. When so you prefer a non papa. This one too is called a non papa. Good. So in any language you can represent the tone using these, which are high tones, low and high, and low and low. So there's something called the International Phonetic Alphabet. And what this is a way to represent any language so that the person who's reading it can understand how it's pronounced. And one thing that it makes use of is the use of tone. So in normal Chi, you won't see the tones marked, but this is just so you can read it and understand this is high tone. So when you're reading from left to right, when you see this, it looks like you're going uphill. That's how you know it's a high tone, right? This one, it looks like it's going downhill. That's how you know it's low tone. And then this one is high, it's going uphill, right? These two going downhill, going downhill. So if you ever see it, you don't need to be confused, or what is this thing on top of my letters? It's just to let you know low, high. There's also what's called a down-stepped tone, but we'll come to that one in due time, right? We actually gave an example, den chem, right? So is low, den is high, and then chem is down-stepped. So it's not fully low, it's just one under the high one. We'll come to that. Yeah.
Papa, in a way, it also means fun.
Very good.
Between the airways and the Yakans, who was it for?
So this is a very good question, and it's one that I cannot answer. That there are lots of words. You have two different things in play. One is genetic, that all of them are coming from the same source originally. Another one is aerial. It has to do with just when you're saying area. And that's when languages are close together, then they will naturally borrow, between each other. So in this case, we would actually have to do a linguistic study in order to find out, all right, is this just due to borrowing, or is it because they all are coming from the same original source? Now, ultimately, all languages come from here in Africa, as well as all human beings. So at one point in time, when we were dealing with Negro-Egyptian, I hope you remember that we were talking about how ultimately all these languages come from the same source. So it's a possibility that all of them, kept that same word all the way from the source, or even if it changed, now if we're back together again, then we may interchange. Very good. So all adjectives, numbers, and articles should come after the nouns they modify. This is a very important point. There are post-nominals in P and pre-nominals in the English language. And examples are, in English you would say black cat. So black is describing the noun cat. But in P, okra tuntum. Okra. So that's the cat, tuntum. And that is the black. So you see the colors coming after. Same thing for numerals, same thing for these other ones. So here in English, one orange, P, anka, bakun. Now for those of you who know Equapim, you will know another word, ekutu. But it's still the same thing. Asante is anka, Equapim is ekutu. But in either of those dialects, any of those dialects, bakun will come after. Let's say it together, anka, bakun. Anka bakun. Good. And then you have articles. So the articles come after. So you have the car in English, but in Chi, ka no. Ka no. Now there are even, so ka, that one is a long word, but there are indigenous words for all of these as well. So in Chi that would be shine, shine, shine. Very good. And you can use that in the place, anywhere, any place you would use the word ka. You can use shine. Very good. This is another important point for when you're writing. So all subject pronouns, the tense markers, and the verbs are written together as one word. So for this one, now in Equapim, this would be pronounced as mereko. Mereko. But in Asante, even though it's still written, it's not pronounced. What you do is you just keep this vowel sound and hold it out. Right? So it's still written in Asante tree, but it's not pronounced. Does anyone want to give this a shot at how you would pronounce this? Mireko. Mireko. So mireko, that's Equapim. Mireko, that's Asante.
So you are saying you keep it as that, but you don't pronounce it.
Exactly.
If it is miracle, then wouldn't it be miracle?
So what we're dealing with is the orthography. This is the writing system of the language. Now you'll find things like, for example, can anyone pronounce this word? This is English. Blade. Why don't you say bladey? Right? So sometimes you have a difference, and a lot of these are things that are kept from an earlier stage in the language, right? These are retentions from an earlier stage in the language. So even though it's still written as it was written when this was pronounced, you know now that you're not pronouncing this anymore. So similarly, in Chi, even though we're still writing as it is, as it was at one point in the past, we know the sound has changed in Asante to now be Mireko. Right? Now I have a colleague in the linguistics department who wants this to change. He's an Asante speaker. He says it should be written just like it sounds. Right? So whenever he writes it personally, he does it differently, but that won't help you much if you ever want to read anything in Asante Chi, because all the Asante Chi books are using this system. You understand? So we continue. Another example, Yebeko. Yebeko. So when you say Miyeko, this is I am going. Yebeko, this is we will go. Yebeko. Let's say that. Yebeko. Yebeko. Good. So unlike many Ghanaian languages, the conjunction ne used in counting numbers in Chi is used in counting numbers in Chi only after bridging over 100. So oha ni bakun. Oha. Let's say oha. So that's 100 ni bakun. So that's 101. So otherwise you don't use that. So the Akans do not use ne with the units and tens, and so don't say adjacencies. Yeah. So that is something that you don't say. It's just adjacent and sien. So adjacent and sien. We'll actually get a chance to understand what this adjacent is.
So this one, if you want to say, and if you want to say it like, I will go.
Mepo.
So why not?
Say again?
Why not Mebeko?
Why not mebepo? So this is something that you just have to learn about the language, that the first person singular is different from all the other ones. So all the other ones will insert be. Did everyone hear the question? Right, she was saying, why isn't it mebepo? It would make sense because that's how all the other ones work. But you have to remember, you have to remember, so the price on this is 15 Ghana cedis. So for those who have written your names, this is our national service person, Eraki Siwa, and she will be assisting in helping you do the purchase. So the question was, how come it's Mepo and it's not Mebeko? That again, just the first person singular is going to be different from all the other ones. From all the other ones, you will put be inside of it. For first person singular, the two is called contraction with a me. And what would have been mebe, that this gets deleted, and just these two come together as me. Me, and it's me on the high tone. So we continue, and it gives other examples that the guys, for example, use nyongma ke ekome. So that is 11, whereas cheese have one word, dubaku, dubaku, dubaku. That's coming from du, which is 10, and baku, which is 1. So what you're literally talking about is 10 added to 1, that will give you 11, dubaku. But you don't say 10 and 1, it's just one word, right? The accounts don't have gender distinction between he and she, which is a third person singular subjective pronoun. They use all for both. So both he and she is the exact same thing, right? So if I say oko, kumase ndra, oko, let's say it together, oko, kumase ndra. That's he or she went to Kumasi yesterday, right? So again, it's different from English where you would have to let me know whether it's a man or a woman who went, and she is what's called gender neutral, right? No, if you have a question.
So, I wanted to ask, the he and she, do we have a word for it? How would you call he and how would you call she?
This is what we're just explaining, that all is used for both he and she. So it's gender neutral. All you know is that if someone, I am the one talking, you are the one I'm speaking to, I'm just talking about someone who is not either me or you, one single person. And then we're not distinguishing whether it's a male or female. That is irrelevant in the Chi language. We just let you know, all or all. Very good. And then most words in Akan end with vowels, but the following 4 consonants can end words. So as in nom. Let's say it together. Nom. Nom. Kind. Kind. Now some will pronounce this more like kind, others will say kan. But it's still the same word. The W as in asil. Or as in koro, which is in Chi, to wash. So Akan consonants can be divided into 2. These are the single letters and those with letter combinations known as digraphs. The following are the digraphs of the Akan language. So you have de and we come together, got it. Let's say got it. So this is to bathe, J. 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 J is to receive, literally. A lot of people will translate this as take, but it's different from take. What I'm telling you is to receive what I'm giving you, right? Take is a different word, fa. That's to take, my fa, right? J lets you know there's a person who's giving, and I am now the recipient. So collect is something that you hear a lot in terms of Ghanaian English, but collect has a different meaning in standard English. Collect is more like, here are various things on the floor. I'm going to collect them all together. They are separate things. I'm going to collect them, right? So this one doesn't necessarily have a connotation of different things. Usually it's one thing and you're receiving it, right? Yeah, so what you are saying in English is different from what you're saying in Chi. So in Chi, when you say receive, it lets you know there are two different people. One is a giver, one is the recipient. When you say take, there may not be any other person involved, right? If I say, this is here, I'm going to take this thing, right? The difference is when you say receive, there's always a connotation of another human being who will be doing the giving. Take doesn't have that connotation. So the one that's more closely, so people can just say it anyhow, but the one that's more closely related to take is fa. Because that one, there's no connotation that there must be another person who is doing the giving. It may just be sitting there and you can just fa, right? Whereas J always lets you know, just like in the English, to receive, that there are two human beings involved in the transaction, right? So now alphabet and sounds of the language. So what we're going to do is go into the vowels and the consonants. So our objectives for today are that by the end of this unit, you should be able to know the alphabet of the Chi language. You should also know the phonemic symbols of the alphabet, their phonetic transcriptions and keywords in Chi, and the meanings in English. You should also know about the distribution of vowels in the language, right? So we're saying things that sound a bit technical. We'll make it very clear what are the vowels, what are the consonants, phonemes, so forth and so on. We'll identify the long and short vowels and note that past tenses can be made from words, verbs with short vowels by lengthening the final vowels. But a difference in vowel length alone can also bring about a difference in meaning. We also know about consonants as well as digraphs in the language. So firstly, we'll deal with vowels. Our first section will cover materials on vowels. This will include the alphabet, phonemic symbols, phonetic transcriptions, and so forth and so on. So, a, be, de, e, fe, ge, he, I, ke, o, o, he, se, te, u, we, ye. Now these are the only two that are different from your regular keyboard, right? Now if you want to use and all on your phone, or and all on your laptop, you can look up a software that is on different platforms. Kasahoro. And what this is saying, language various, right? Literally various languages. So if you do a search for this software, there's for PC, I know, there's for Android, I know, I'm sure there's for iOS as well. But this will make it so you don't have to use this anymore. You can actually use it. Now I want to introduce something to help you to remember the alphabet. Are you ready? A, B, D, E, F, G. Repeat after me. A, B, D, E, F, G. Again. A, B, D, E, F, G. A, B, D, E, F, I say, why a crowd? I'm saying, are you ready? Why a crowd? So crowd is chi for ready. If you hear people speak chi, some people say, why are ready? You know ready is not chi. The chi word, why a crowd? And as much as possible, we'll be using the indigenous chi words more than the words that are borrowed from English and other things. So, why a crowd? Very good. A, B, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, O, O, A, P, R, C, T, U, W, Y. A, B, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, O, O, A, P, R, C, T, U, W, Y. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now, the way a child learns a language is that they don't always have someone to translate it into English for them, right? So, with this one, we're going to do a quick exercise, right? And in this, you'll be learning the language in context, the way a normal child would learn it. Muma Monsaso. Muma Monsaso. Muma Monsam. Muma Monsaso. Muma Monsam. Muma Monsaso. Moncham Honshia. I'm taking you to the people. So in this class, people are not supposed to have background in Chi. But when I know people have background in Chi, okay. Mama Monsaso. Mama Monsam. Munkamusha. Munkoto. 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 Monsore. Munkoto. Monsore. Munkoto. Monsore. Mama Monsaso. Mama Monsam. Monhuri. 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 Mama Monsam. Monhuri. Mama Monsam. Mama Monsaso. Mama Monsam. Monchanghushia. Monkoto. Monsore. Monkoto. Monsore. Mama Monsam. Mama Monsaso. Monkoto. Monsore. Mombutuho. Monsore. Mombutuho. Mon sorry. Momo mon sam. Momo mon chasu. Mon koto. Mon sorry. Now we're going to do a variation on this one. And Kwame said. This is Kwame says. Now Kwame can't. So if I say Kwame say, only then should you do what I'm telling you to do. Otherwise, don't do anything. Does everyone understand? If I say Kwame say, Momo mon sam, that's when you should clap. If I just say Momo mon sam, don't clap. So we're testing listening skills. You've just learned it, but you're learning it in context. And we're having a little bit of fun with it. Kwame say, Momo mon sam, Momo mon sasu. Kwame ankash. Kwame say, Momo mon sasu. Momo mon sam. Ah, you're good. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Mon champunchia. Momo mon sam. You're good. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Mon koto. Don't push down your neighbor. Kwame say, Mon koto. Mon sorry. Games are good for language learning. Kwame say, Mon sorry. Some of you old people who have bad backs, you are feeling the pain. Kwame say, Mon koto. Mon sorry. Kwame say, Mon sorry. Mon koto. Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon saso. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon saso. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon saso. Momo mon sam. If your hands up together, have a seat. Montanasi, Montanasi, Montanasi. Kwame Ankashi. Why? We're not done yet. We have 3 people who are still in. This is my data. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon sasu. Mon koto. Kwame say, Mon koto. Kwame say, Mon sorry. Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon sasu. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon sasu. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Kwame say, Momo mon sasu. Kwame say, Momo mon sam. Momo mon sasu. I think we have a winner. So we'll do different games. Me, I teach my children all subjects in G. So math, science, everything. And I find the best thing for teaching them is through games, right? So as you're having fun, you're smiling, you're laughing, you're also learning, right? So we'll continue. Let's do this one more time, and then we'll come down to our consonants. A, B, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, O, M, O, P, R, C, T, U, W, Y. A, B, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, O, M, O, P, R, C, T, U, W, Y. Very good. Now, what do you notice about this alphabet that may be different from English? And then also no C. Very good. What else? Not up to 26. Correct. Or we should say there are different ones in P than the ones that we have in English. What else is missing? J is not there. So if you see someone spelling their name like this, right, it means that it's being written by an English missionary and not that it's part of Chi. In Chi, it would be written like this. Bajo, Bajo, Bajo. Not this, because remember, this is not in Chi, right? If you have someone with a name like something like this, Kwame, what do you know? That is not spelled in the Chi way, it's vocalized, as they say. It will be Kwame, right? So forth and so on. So you'll see people using it, but you yourself have to know the difference. You say, wow, say, so you yourself, you have to see the difference. Is it spelled in the Chi way, or is it written in an English type of way? However, it says, for spelling foreign words, especially names that are foreign, usually you leave them as they are, right? So Charles, Janet, and so forth and so on. Usually you won't make it in a Chi spelling for that. So there are 7 vowel symbols. 7 vowel symbols. And these are things that you find in the writing. There are other vowels that aren't represented separately in the writing system. And I'll show you what we mean. Now this one will have 2 sound values, either as you would expect, or a. Here's a. This one also has 2 sound values, and I'll give you examples. This either has a sound value of a, as you would expect, or e, right? O. This has 2 sound values, either o, as you would expect, or o. U, e. So that's up to the 7. Now, one thing that you find, as in phonetic transcription, the British pronunciation of glass, right? In Chi, can. One thing you'll notice is that that one is a nasal vowel, can. If you say a non-nasal, it means to remain, ka, right? Can. Let's say a difference. Can. You have to say it like you want to blow your nose. Can. Of course, don't hold your nose when you're saying it. Otherwise, we'll say, who is teaching you to do this? Can. And then, ka. Maka. That's like, I am stuck. I've been left behind. Maka. A. As in the English word day, or chi, ifye. So that one is Asante Chi. You may be familiar with another variation on it, which is Ofi. That's Ekwapim Chi, right? As in English bet, or as in Chi, yeah. And this can be either to do, as you see here. In other contexts, it can also be to be, right? O, as in English obey, or as in Chi, ura. Translated to Mr. or Sir. O, as in hot, or Chi, soft. So soft and young. Soft. I say soft. Good. And it sounds similar to, this is soft. Right? Cash. To catch. I know what you're saying. So, so that one has another thing. And it comes together as sum, just as our person who was pretending not to understand Chi said. So you have soft, and then it comes together with mum. It comes together as sum. Usually that will translate as to hold. If you want to catch, as in something is running away, you're trying to catch that thing, usually use chi. Right? This one, there's no connotation of something running and you're trying to catch up with this. This one does have that connotation. Chim. That one is che, coming together with mu, which is to divide, right? I say, ma chim, ma chichim. What you're saying is that you are dividing. That's chim. Chim. Right? So you have different sounds that sound similar, but they're different and they're spelled differently. So even if they sound similar, when you see the spelling, you'll know it's a different thing altogether. Right? So chim is different from chim. Right? And then also we have E as in seat, or as in P, D. D. Now you only use this short form when you have the object that comes after, right? You don't say mekodi, right? So you would say mekodi fufu, right? Mekodi, then you have to mention what the thing is. Otherwise, what would you say? Anyone? Didi? So that's something to remember, that if you're not mentioning the shit, if you're not mentioning what is being eaten, you say didi. The only time you'll use this short form to mean to eat is when you have an object that's going to come after it. I hope it's clear. Then u, yeah. So then that would be di, right? I know what you're thinking, but not that eat. So in that one, you have, here you have D and you don't have anything that comes after it, unless you have an adverb that comes after that thing. So, dinasa is eat it like that, right? That's the only time that the no will come up is when you have something that comes after it, right? But otherwise, you just say D, and it's understood as eat it, right? I've eaten it, like D. It means that we're already talking about something that is known, like D, right?
There's nothing like no meaning it in tree.
There is, and that's what we have here, but it doesn't surface in this word unless you have something that comes after it, right? That, the full form of it will be eno. Eno na ewo. It is what is there, right? And it's shortened to just no. But in cases like this, it won't show up unless you have something that comes after. Right? U, as in the T, two. Among toi, voilà. Or if you know the Rollins one, or you know. Now that's a joke because that's not how the proverb goes. I hope everyone knows. So there's a proverb that says, Among toi, obriata. And it translates to, if a bird doesn't fly, then it goes hungry, basically. It starves. Now, Rawlings is known for always messing up proverbs. So he said, Among toi, obriata. If you're laughing, it means you already know the language. It means that if the bird doesn't fly, then it just stands there. Right? But that's not the proverb. Another sound, this symbol that is a symbol A, has two sound values that I mentioned. So one is A, the other one is A, as in afit, as in a year, efie, vomit, adie. So you have this it in here. A lot of things that when they're written in an anglicized way, go ahead. That's afie. Another thing that you'll learn is the difference between vowel harmony. So, So, F, yeah. This is how you would write it in tree. F, yeah. It's different from if, ye. Right? Now, what this comes down to is what's called vowel harmony, and we'll go into that. But basically, vowels that are in this word are going to be different from the vowels that are going to be in this word. And it's based on where your tongue is going to be placed as you're pronouncing them. Alright?
Why is this one E and this one
What is this? So what you have here is the IPA symbol. So this is something that you don't find in the writing system. So I mentioned before the International Phonetic Alphabet. In that you have symbols that don't occur in the Chi writing system, but it looks like a lowercase I, and it's pronounced it. So if you're reading a Chi book, you'll never see this in there, unless it's a linguistics textbook. And what this is showing you is the linguistic symbol of the sound. So what we're saying is that this symbol, which is what you do have in Chi writing, it represents both the A sound and it represents this phonemic sound, it, right? So this stands for two different ones. And the point that I was going to make is that you have lots of words that are anglicized. For example, this is the Chi spelling. This is the anglicized spelling. When we're saying anglicized, what does that mean? What do we say when we're saying anglicized? By writing it